So guys, we're going to talk about the mental aspects of guitar playing today, and as always I'm going to get Mrs. Higgy to start me off with firing a question in my direction.
So, Lord Higgy, why do you think so many people are stuck on the guitar?
Right, well, loads of reasons really, but most of them psychological. So it could be as simple as the fact that you're just not being honest with yourself about what it is that your problem is and you're avoiding it. It could be a lack of knowledge, so you don't really know what's going wrong or what you need to do about it. It could be the fact that you just don't believe you can do it, because that is more prevalent than you think. Even people who are, grown adults, with successful careers still suffer from the lack of self-belief when it comes to something like playing a guitar, especially when you consider what you see like the guitar greats doing, all this flashy stuff, people see that and think, well, I'll never be able to do that. And that's prevalent in the guitar community, these ideas that, people can't do things, like all these guitar legends, we've seen it all, born with it. You've got to be playing, a zillion hours a day since you were a fetus. Otherwise, you'll never be able to build speed picking and stuff like that. So there's a lot of those myths which trying to get people to free themselves from those stupid myths, because they are myths. They're not true because, well, I know they're not true because I've proved them wrong in my own journey, but my students are proving them wrong all the time because they're achieving things which they didn't think they were capable of. And it doesn't involve like the 8 hours a day, and it, in age isn't a factor because people are doing this later in life. So a lot of it comes down to not believing that you can. So that's a major psychological barrier why people stay stuck.
Yeah, why is it that the psychological side of guitar playing isn't really talked about, isn't really documented anywhere? It's, it seems to be kind of like a missing link for a lot of people, I think, and they don't realise that that is an actual thing. Yet in everyday life, that's what we're coming up against, aren't we? The psychological barriers.
I guess it's not palatable. It's not very sexy as a subject for a lot of people, but also you can't tab it out and give it to people as a lick. It's, like I said, you can't tab intent or confidence or belief. You can't give that to someone as a lick, and it's not like the dopamine hit of, oh, there's a new lick to learn this week, or, oh, there's a new shred lick or that's going to save the world, or, going to defeat communism, the shred lick that's going to, defeat asteroids and save planet Earth. It's just, so I guess that's why it's not really an easily consumable thing, like, giving people shit tons of licks and doing guitar memes and stuff like that. But, surprisingly, a lot of people do really want to, hear more about this stuff and go into it. Because, when they start looking at this, they realize, oh shit, yeah, this is true. It's like, when I talk about a lot of this stuff, for a lot of people, it's like, right, it's like you've been able to, meaning me, you've been able to explain something that I've kind of felt but haven't been able to put into words. And then when people realize, oh yeah, a lot of these things I'm experiencing too, it's like, it does open a door, and I think people do want to know more about it because
I think that
does affect.
It does. It really rolls into the permission-based thing. I think a lot of people, a lot of students that seem to come your way have got to a point where they're like, to the fuck it, zone.
Yeah, you kind of have to get there to a point, where you're just pissed off enough to do something about it, because it's like a lot of people I work with, they've tried everything under the sun. They've worked with loads of different teachers over the years, or they were learning back in the 80s or whatever, when there wasn't as much like resources and stuff like that. So all you had was like what you got in like the guitar mags, or you had some really inaccurate
sparse
books.
Yeah, really sparse kind of, you figure this shit out.
Well, yeah, you had like a lot of notation, which may or may not have been accurate. You guys know that yourselves. A lot of those tabs were not necessarily accurate. But you didn't really necessarily have a lot of guidance in terms of the technique, because there wasn't as much understanding back then, really, I don't think. It was sort of like, all right, here's a lick in E minor, and you just sort of got to figure out how to do it in a way.
Yeah, and when you look at the, the guitar legends, they didn't have any of those resources.
No.
So they were having to figure this stuff. So so there was no link for them even. Like now, it's like information overload.
Well, yeah, exactly. I think it's like where there was a lack of guidance or instruction, they had to match up with just intent and balls and belief and desire for the thing that they wanted, you know, and that
also,
does get you far, but it doesn't always fill in.
And also the sound that they were constantly looking for. This is something else that, you know, that people seem to not make the connection again.
Yeah, like when Ingve talks about the sounds that he wanted to get together, he's not using like the terms that we now know, like these days, like we use terms like alternate picking, economy picking, what have you. Like he says it in terms of like I wanted like the staccato sound, like dick dick dick. And he means like the picking sound, you know, whether that's
or
a
the
pick,
muting,
you know.
or whatever.
Yeah, and if you like listen to like interviews of like guitar players from back in the day, or even interviews with them now, they're not necessarily using the same language that we now use in the guitar world. They didn't even necessarily have names for a lot of the techniques. Like there was like an old clip of Randy Rhoads' guitar clinic from like '82, I want to say, and he was talking about essentially what we would call a legato run.
Yeah.
But they didn't really necessarily use that language back then. I think he called it something like articulated hammer-ons or something, for one. And that's just the term he used.
Yeah.
Right? So a lot of this stuff really was those guys just chasing the sounds that they want to hear.
And going off the back of that, now that we have to have a buzzword for every technique and every
I mean, yeah,
pitch stroke,
it's gone a bit silly
It
with
has.
some of the stuff. I mean, whilst it's great that the internet is giving people resources to understand things, there does come a point at which you get saturated with all of the knowledge and no idea of actually how to do it. Like you get all these terms, which in some cases to some people they're helpful, but to other people they're not helpful because all they do is confuse it even further.
Yes.
Of like all you really need to know is like upstrokes, downstrokes, string crossing, how to develop speed, and
Hammers
balls.
and pulls.
Yeah, hammers and pulls, but basically balls. Just go into it with intent. If you have the intent to get the note, you're going to get it. You know, it might take a few tries, but you will increase your average of getting something accurate if you're working on a picking lick.
Do you think that's another aspect as well, that the emphasis now where everything's just so consumable, the try is taken out. Oh, just do this lick and it'll be fine.
Well, yeah, there is obviously that element of making it consumable where it's like, oh, you can do this like with a minimum of effort, and of course that's attractive to people.
Yeah.
Because who doesn't want to be able to do something like
First try.
easily?
Yeah.
Of course, it's very understandable. You can't blame human nature, but it does turn people into like magpies, doesn't it? So like they're very distracted. Instead of just like focusing on, I've said it before, like the stuff is really mundane actually that you need to do.
Yeah.
But once you've done it, you're going to get a foundation which will stick with you, and then you can build on that. You can go wherever you want, take it wherever you want, add whatever different techniques or licks or vocabulary that you desire. But the real work, the foundation work, is mundane. It's like the hammers and pulls. It's getting the good timing, the good sound, getting the fretting hand up to speed. So if you're getting stuff like really inaccurate, uneven hammers and pulls, that means your fretting hand is useless, really. And there are a lot of people that can move their hands fast. So, you can take someone who doesn't even play guitar and you say, if you mime someone playing a guitar style, they'll do like that. So anybody can move their fingers fast, but moving your fingers fast doesn't mean it can do anything. So look, I'm going to do that on the guitar. Now, does that translate to anything? No. So yeah, you can move your fingers fast, but are you actually in control of your fingers? Are you actually able to turn that into... So you need that control, and that is, you just got to get the mundane stuff under your belt, the hammers and pulls. It's really not difficult in terms of the path you need to take. It's simple, but what's hard is you're basically making yourself do it. It's what's hard is resisting the magpie effect of, it's a fucking shiny new lick, that's the one shred lick you need to learn, or whatever the fuck it is this week,
Yeah, I think that's the problem, because obviously YouTube is an amazing thing to go to find out anything you want,
And then you end up watching 10 more videos and forgetting what you went there for.
Exactly, exactly. A lot of our time is consumed by just consuming content that isn't gonna
which keeps you stuck again. I mean, I've even in some ways we've kind of gone off piste a little bit with our original point about what was it, being stuck, wasn't it? Why people get stuck, but
Yeah.
that is one. I mean,
That is an aspect of
I
it.
guess the sort of the magpie thing of like a new lick or a new magic hack or this, that, the other, which is kind of like a way of avoiding doing the work, which is like the mundane stuff, really.
And I think that's the bit as well, psychologically, because you have roughly two different types of people, you know, whether they're analytical or they're practical.
Yeah.
So, and you encounter
That's the
that
word.
a lot, don't
Yeah,
you? Yeah.
yeah, and that's like the way I describe it. You know, that really, you know, people, you know, you tend to be, you know, you're an analytical type, so that, you know, the stuff that's really wordy or the stuff that's really, I guess I'm going to say the word again, analytical, is the
deep
stuff
into
that
the
appeals.
mechanics.
Yeah, like really deep into the, you know, the bits and pieces and the endless. I mean, like jargon is created for the analytical brain. You know, people love it. You know, it's like, oh, it's got a buzzword, or is it brilliant? You know, am I doing this correctly? I've learnt the new buzzword. I've learnt the thing. Am I doing it correctly? You know, so there's a lot of the analytical brain type stuff out there. But the downside of that is that really, the more analytical you are, you know, you're used to using that prefrontal cortex to make decisions and work stuff out, which is an incredible skill. It's brilliant. If you have an analytical brain, that's awesome. But the downside is that you can be a bit light on things like faith and trust in your body and things like that. So the practical side of things, where you just trust that your body can learn something. And if you think about the outcome you want and have the intent, just allowing that to happen organically, letting your body find the way of doing it, which is really how, you know, the greats did it before there was all this internet instruction and everything like that. You know, a lot of that is faith, that's a scary word for a lot of people because they might think faith or religion. No. It's just it's trusting that something's going to happen when you don't really have any empirical proof.
That's it.
You know,
Trusting the outcome.
You know, it's important to have that decisive brain. Because when you're learning stuff, or if you're trying to figure out what your problem is, obviously you need that to figure stuff out. But it comes a point where you go beyond the learning of the technique, where you have to then incorporate the technique as part of yourself. So, you know, when you can do a technique comfortably, and you get to the point of guitar playing where you're just enjoying it and you're creating sounds, you're not really having to think anymore about, you know, what kind of hand angle do I have, what pick stroke am I on, this, that, the other. You're not running through a checklist.
That's it.
You know, because a checklist stops flow. So if you're thinking to yourself, oh, am I doing this? Am I doing that? Am I doing that? Your flow is stopping constantly. You're not in flow. But, you know, going back to the analytical versus practical people, the flip side of that coin is you've got the people who naturally maybe are a bit practical, so they can take to this stuff a bit easier because they're not overthinking it. They're just letting the body do the work. They fall into the opposite trap where they don't think enough.
Yes.
So they'll just be practicing the same way, and maybe they got to a level which is okay, but they're just sort of mustering through, they're getting through. So when I see these guys playing, it's like they're pretty good, but they've got technical things which are holding them back, but they're not analysing why they're fucking up every time. They're not seeing what the problem is, so they're not thinking of the problem. They're not thinking of solving the problem, and they're not practicing accordingly. So they're just doing the same thing they always do.
Which ones do you think consume more of the wrong content?
To be honest, it's hard to say. I think it's a bit of both. I think the analytical type people will always be looking for the answers.
Yes.
The practical gut reaction people will just be consuming more content like licks and solos. They're always wanting to learn songs and solos.
Yes.
Because they think that they can already do it, but they don't really understand that their technique isn't quite working right.
Yeah.
They're not alternate picking, or they're not doing the thing that or they don't realise their hand sync's terrible, or their fretting hand is rubbish.
Yeah.
Whereas the analytical guys are aware that there's a problem, but they just keep looking, and maybe they've actually encountered the answer already, but they're not trusting it and they're not doing it. So I would say analytical guys, always on the lookout for the answers. Practical guys don't realise there's a problem, they just keep consuming more songs, solos and magic licks. Because I think, you know, we all need a bit of both. Like whatever it is that you lack a little bit, you kind of need to give yourself that. So if you're like, if you are one of those analytical kind of people, like you have a very analytical job, it's kind of scientific, or you're an engineer, doctors, all you guys kind of know who you are because, you know that that's the skill set you have, which is an incredible skill set for life and for particular industries, right? It's an amazing one. But if you know that can get in the way, what you actually need to develop a bit is a bit more trust and a bit more faith, then that's what you need to give to yourself. And then for the other side of the coin, like the more intuitive, emotive, just go for it, fuck it, guys. That's good because it's got you as far as you have. But if you are stuck, then you need to actually start thinking and being a bit more analytical and start looking at problems.
I think I might add another guy into the mix, which is the wing it guy. Let's just fuck it, let's wing it and it'll be okay. I'll add a load of flashy legato or picking or some. Do you know what I mean? And they're kind of like in the nomad one, aren't they?
Do you think that's a separate? I would have just put them right on the. Just go for it and don't think about it too much.
No, because I wanted to say that because their kind of arrogance keeps them there, and I don't mean arrogance as in the mean sense. I mean the
maybe more denial.
Ego.
More denial.
Denial. Yeah.
They don't think there's anything wrong.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
So I can do everything. I don't need to work on anything.
Yeah, but
you do encounter it sometimes. They're a bit like sort of.
And then they're like, Lord Higgy, why can't I play this solo? And it's like, well.
Yeah, I guess it's almost like enthusiasm is just overrode and everything to where they're almost like nose blind or whatever. Like they can't really see that. Oh, geez, man, that sync is way out, or they can't hear that they got no tone. They can't decipher that their bending is way out of tune, or the timing is really terrible or something.
I think the timing is probably one of the biggest ones, isn't it?
It's a surprising one because it's
and
timing is definitely a big problem, guys. And it's not a sexy topic at all. Like who the hell wants to watch a YouTube video about fix your timing? You'd rather watch a YouTube video about this is the #1 shred lick that you need, right? You'd watch that video, but you're not going to watch a video talking about, dude, your timing fucking sucks.
Yeah,
nobody wants to watch that.
Yeah, and that brings you back to your original point of it's the grunt work, it's the boring shit.
It is the boring grunt work, but if you get it done, guys, I swear to you, you don't have to spend the rest of your life on it. Once it's done, it's done.
Oh, and that's another point, you saying that. Lots of people just stay in lickland, reciting pieces and pieces, and sorry, practice land, I should call it.
Practice
really,
land.
Where they have these routines of it's 15.5 minutes on this lick and 2 3/4 minutes on that lick, and they're so precise. And
that definitely goes back to appealing to the analytical mindset, where that's a good point actually, because it's the analytical mindset. When you're in that mindset, it's all about control and an attempt to control your environment in the hope that you're going to get the results that you want. So it's like with the practice schedules, and I'm not knocking a practice schedule. If you have a finite amount of time in a day, then it can be quite helpful. But a lot of the time, I think that people really do lean on it too much, and they think, right, okay, I need what. I've had people ask me what practice schedule would you recommend. I'm like, dude, it's seriously. I mean, I can throw any numbers out there. All right, 15 minutes on this, 15 minutes on that, but I'll just be fucking making it up. Anybody can make it up. Anybody in the world, any guitar teacher could come to you and say, 10 minutes this, 12 minutes that. Fucking numbers pulling out of the air. It doesn't mean anything. So
no, because and also it's not, unless you know specifically what their problem is. You are.
Maybe 11 minutes of legato that day is too much, and maybe 9 minutes 50 seconds would have been the optimum. You know your body, and that goes back to faith and trust. You need to develop that. You do, because I honestly think that the leap to rely on data and statistical evidence it really is like a reaction to a lack of faith. It's like if you don't have faith and trust, you over-rely on black and white statistical empirical data. So that's why you get obsessed with the practice routines. Is it 10 minutes of this, 10 minutes of that? How many licks do I need to learn? Blah, blah, blah. And it's like the more you rely on that stuff, you are not developing trust in yourself. You're not developing faith. And they are absolutely essential, because that's where you're going to make the gains. You need that, whatever it is you lack, you need to give to yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it's like everything in life, isn't it? It's the boring stuff that you have to wade through to get
it's the stuff you don't. Yes, it's the stuff you don't want to look at. It's the stuff that you don't want. It's like if you have a feeling that you kind of know what the answer is, that you know the thing that's holding you back that you should look at, but you don't really want it to be that. You wish it was something else that you felt like you had control over. So it's like
Yes.
You feel like you have control over learning more licks. You feel like you have control if, all right, I'm just going to work on my alternate picking. I'm just going to keep working on picking licks and picking licks and picking licks because I want it to be that. But really, you know it's your legato or you know it's your timing.
Or hand sync.
Or hand sync, whatever
hand
it
sync
is.
is one of the worst ones I think that people overlook.
And it's more simple than it needs to be.
Oh, what?
It so is. It really is. I mean, it's.
You can walk and talk, right?
If you can walk and talk. You know, you can walk, you can talk, you can shovel food into your mouth. Hand sync, it is just as that is doing something at the same time that is doing something. And if you can't do it, it's either you're doing it too quickly, you're trying to do too much of it at once, or one of those hands sucks. All right? And you need to find out which one it is. Maybe it's both of them, you know, but...
And then you can get into the tiny details, your pick, your strings,
yeah.
You know...
But you don't need those details right now.
No.
I mean, you need the grunt work done.
Yeah.
You need the foundation.
That's
you know,
it. That's it.
You know, it's... Until you got that foundation, you don't need to be bothering yourselves with, like, you know, nuclear physics levels of pick angles and shit. Well, nobody does anyway. I mean, that shit has no place in guitar playing.
No.
I'm sorry, but, you know, the more scientific you want something to be when it comes to guitar playing, the further away from guitar playing it gets. This
and
is
also
not,
fun.
This is, yeah, and further away from fun. This is not nuclear physics. This is a musical instrument. It requires your body. Right?
And we all stand differently. Some are left-handed, some are right-handed.
Well, different bodies, finger lengths are slightly different. So a finger combination, it might work for me, might not work for you. Maybe your third finger is longer than mine. Maybe your second finger isn't as long. Whatever it is, you know, there's loads of different combos. You've really got to try it out, you know. And whilst, you know, knowledge is helpful. You need knowledge, and you know it will help you find the path. But you still need to be the one that, you know, has the faith and the trust and says, I'm gonna find the answer, because you can apply the knowledge to your guitar playing, but it's still your physique that is involved. So you still need to
and then
bringing
it back to the mental aspect. You've still got to have the heart, haven't you? At the end.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a lot of people do things because, well, different reasons. Some people do stuff because they feel like they should be able to do it. So then that brings in this, like, a lot of this obligation. And the more obligated you feel to do something, the less motivated you are, you know, to do it. And it feels like a chore. So practice becomes a chore. And I do see that a lot with people who have these very analytical approaches to practice sessions. They've got these practice sessions, which is basically like a long list of shit that you've got to get done when you get home from work. So imagine you're coming home from work, you've done a full day, and then you've got like laundry, you've got washing, you've got to go to the store, you've got to wash your car, you've got to pick your kids up from baseball, you've got to do all this shit. You're going to feel, oh, man, that's a guitar practice schedule, right, for a lot of people. You know, no wonder they get burnt out. You know, you need to find the joy again.
And practicing every day. People are a little bit obsessive. So you could have the flu or maybe an upset stomach.
Maybe you feel so knackered, you know, you're not going to make any physical gains, because it's quite hard to convince people to actually have a day off when it comes to guitar practice, because you know what it's like. You get enthused about something, you think you're getting gains, you want to keep doing it every day, you want to do more of it. Yeah. We've all done it, we're all guilty of it. But you know, you're not going to lose all your skills if you have a day off. Sometimes you need to. Sometimes you just need to have a day off just because it's good to do it.
Sometimes you need 2 or 3 days off. I mean, even with you, when you've been relentless at doing something for a Legends course or whatever, you've been relentless at it, and you know, whilst it's still going well, I can see, you know, mentally and physically you're just fatiguing.
You do get to a point where you really are forcing everything to happen, and you know, when that's happening, you just think, shit, you know, you really do have to step back mentally, you know, as well as physically. But yeah, having days off, guys, you're not gonna lose your guitar abilities. You're not. You know, it doesn't vanish that quickly. Stuff that you learn that's physical stuff, you don't forget it. The only thing that really slightly degrades is things like stamina. That's it. But that can be built up again. But you're not actually going to lose the actual physical mechanics of doing it. So even if you have 2 weeks off guitar playing, sure, when you come back, you might need to build up a bit. You know, build up the strength a little bit in the stamina. But you're not going to actually lose the physical ability.
I mean, one question you get asked an awful lot is, how much time do you practice?
It varies. I mean, I don't per se practice. A lot of the time what my practice is would look like playing to a lot of people, because there's no structure. I'm not there with a metronome and I've not got 10 minutes of that one lick. But I might play for me, that's the best way of warming up. Is literally I'll pick up the guitar and I'll play. Like I'll start slowly because I find if you start and you start thinking of sounds, so like if I pick up the guitar and I go straight into like fast stuff, your fingers aren't necessarily warmed up. Try and do shit like that, but just start getting the tone going. And start getting the sound and the finger connection to the fretboard. And from there, it can start slowly speeding up. I start adding little trills to things, stuff like that. Just playing is a good way to just get the blood flow, because really it's about blood flow when you get warmed up, and then when you get going, I might encounter a lick and I'll be like, oh shit, I really like that. So then I'll stay on that for a little while, maybe for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, if I feel like, oh man, fingers are getting really, really tired, I'll leave it alone. But if there is something specific I need to be working on for a course that I'm working on, then I'll set everything up and I'll go through that stuff. But again, it's not really what I would call rigid, structured stuff. I don't really do well with that kind of thing. I get bored. But I also feel that when you start adding numbers to things, you start, to me it adds pressure. It adds pressure. It's like when you watch guys at a competition weightlifting, when they know that the 250 kilos is coming up, it's a lot of pressure there. So if you know that yesterday you got to 150 beats per minute, there's that pressure weighing on you all the time. Whereas when you sort of go at it and you're just feeling your way through it and you're listening to your body, I tend to feel like I get better results that way anyway. I know I do, for sure.
Yeah, because you do noodle a lot on the guitar. And that's almost like, just walking, just talking.
Yeah.
For you, it's I could be having a conversation with you and you will just start noodling.
Yeah.
And it's just almost keeping your hands in shape.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what it sounds like.
And for sure, yeah, it's taken years to get there. Like, you don't pick up the guitar and you just start doing that. And yes, there was years spent on practicing techniques, but generally it's never been, my approach to guitar has never been like really rigid and numbers game like that. Whilst I've tried that, I always find that I get better results when I don't do that. Yes, everybody is different, but for me, that adds pressure and expectations that you don't need, and obsession with numbers. You start getting obsessed with your prowess, with your speeds and things like that. Whereas I think if you let it happen a little bit organically, naturally, you're focused more on how things feel, and then you focus more on how things sound, and I think you will get better results that way.
I think the most gains that you've ever made that I've witnessed on your guitar, I mean, you were good when I met you, but has more been a case of you've been pissed off. That there's been an aspect of your playing that's pissed you off, and you so therefore you attacked it. So I can't think of a specific technique. It was probably more speed based, probably more probably more speed based that has ever pissed you off, and you've gone, right, okay, well I'm eradicating that. I'm pissed off. That's no longer going to be a problem, and you've just attacked it and dealt with it. So whether that was hours in or what.
Could be, yeah. I mean, I do think like the greatest motivator, or one of the greatest motivators in life, is extreme dissatisfaction or something which is really not good or bad, because that nothing gets you moving like something that's not good that you don't want in your life. I think it is like the metaphorical or proverbial kick up the ass, isn't it? Really, it's
well, everything else is the definition of madness, repeating the same thing, and getting the same results. So that's the definition of madness there.
I would definitely say that for every time that I've really needed to make a leap, so for every real leap in my guitar playing, has always been linked to psychological thing, always, and the problem has always been linked to something psychological. Always, every single time. For every real massive eureka moment I had, I can pretty much link it to psychological cause and a response, definitely. And I could just say, being general about it, I would say that whenever you get to the point where you're pissed off, and you're pissed off with doubting yourself or pissed off with trying to be like somebody else, or seeing that someone else holds their pick a certain way, or the picking hand a certain way, when you get to the point where you actually realize that you don't have to look like someone else, or you don't have to do it the exact same way as someone else, that's the freeing part, and that frees you up to actually go and get the gains and go and play guitar in the way that you're meant to. And you know, if you could combine those things that I talked about earlier, like have a bit more trust in yourself, have more faith in yourself, let go of people's opinions, that's always been when I've made the leaps, for sure.
Yeah, and just don't forget, tremolo pick, people.
Tremolo pick, yeah, because... And the great thing is Mrs. He can say all this stuff because she's been watching me do this for years. So like she can pick up guitar, even though she does not play the guitar.
I do not.
Because she's been hearing me teaching so much over the years, she can pick up a guitar and show me what a pre-bend is, or what sweep picking is, or what economy picking is.
Or tremolo picking.
Yeah, tremolo picking. It's really quite fun.
I am crap. Just to put it out there, we do joke that I'm not, but I am crap.
No. You taught me everything I knew. You're the secret. You're actually the real genius behind it.
I don't even know what any of the strings are. I just...
Do you know which is the higher end?
What do you mean, higher end?
Higher notes.
Oh, is it like they sound higher?
Yeah, they sound higher.
The one nearer the pickups?
Yeah, that's right. Because nearly everybody, when they picked up a guitar, me included, always think for some reason the high notes are down there and the low notes are down. What's that about? I remember, definitely, for sure. And I used to think a whammy bar, to do the whammy bar, you just do it side to side, like that. You don't press it down. It's just, I thought it was just like that.
I do, because like seeing videos on TV and it just looks like they're doing that, but really they're yanking it backwards and forwards and shitty cameraman.
No idea.
But
have we gone on totally off track again? We have. If you sit through these rambling videos, there'll be some really good bits of stuff in here. Yeah. Some of it's rambling, but hey, you don't mind us talking, I'm sure.
Yeah, but all right, back on point is about the stuff that you've shown me, the tremolo picking.
Yeah.
You know, stuff like that. And I really can, honestly, people, I cannot play the guitar.
No. But you understand the stuff I taught you about, you know, you understand when I say about keeping your pick on the string.
Yes.
To generate speed, because if you keep the movement wide and you keep trying to increase that, then you're trying to increase this. But that can't get faster. The only way that can get faster is reducing the that's my phone. Reducing the distance that the pick travels, and that naturally speeds you up. You know, and once people get that, you know, that is step one of understanding how to speed up the pick, literally.
And I found that really easy, and I have not got a clue. I found that really easy, and I guess I want to say to people, it is easier than you think. Don't think, because I couldn't think about it because I don't know what I'm meant to be doing.
You held a pick. You funny. You held a pick. You held a pick like Marty Friedman. I was like, oh Jesus Christ.
But that was me. Just here's the pick, here's the guitar, and that's how I play. Yeah. If I could play.
Yeah, but it's funny watching a non-guitar player who's only just listened to the stuff I talk about, how you can pick up the guitar and you can approach it and know what it is that you need to do.
Yes.
But then if you did it, you would then just have to wait for your body to catch up and it would do it. But you know what a pre-bend is, you know what sweep picking is.
Yes.
And you said you found sweep picking quite easy, actually.
Yeah, sweep picking is
you understand
so easy.
What it is.
Simple, guys, it's simple.
Pushing the pick through the strings. That's it.
Yes,
That's what you're doing.
That's it.
You know?
Don't ask me about the fretting hand. I can't do that.
No, but the sweep pick itself, the motion, it's
yeah.
But it is simple. But again, it's like a lot of the stuff gets in the way, people's years of struggles. And it reminds me, another thing that people do a lot of as well is they've got so many guitars, and every time they go in practice, they're playing a different guitar. So everything feels different. Like if you pick up a guitar like this, it's got this scale length, got this many frets, with a double lock and tremolo, it's going to feel a certain way. You go and pick up a guitar, it's got a fixed bridge, like a Tune-o-matic bridge, like a Gibson-style body. You know, everything feels different. You know, your hand is in a different place. So if you are in a place where your technique is not quite reliable, where you can pick up a guitar and it's just there, then you don't want to add variables so much in your practice routine, because the more variables there are, you know, the less consistency you have from session to session. So there's loads of little things like that. Little things like that, guys, you really just need to take notes of.
And they will be messing with your mental aspect, because you will, if it goes bad because you picked up a different guitar, then it's compounding. Oh, you're shit. You can't get this. Give up on that technique. Yeah,
and you're like, why? I got this. I was getting this good yesterday. Why can't I do it today? And then you forget that you were playing it on a Strat yesterday, and today you're trying it on a Les Paul.
Yeah, exactly.
Or whatever. You know, so many different variables, guys. But yeah, try and keep it consistent. Just get the fundamentals right. And it's not rocket science, it's just movements. But you've got to develop more trust in your body's ability to get things done. And one thing I haven't really touched on, even though this is like a mental thing, but guys, is intent.
Oh, yes.
So I talk about this quite a lot through my various channels of social media. But really it is. It's you have to give yourself permission. And I think a lot of this is permission based.
Yes.
Where people think that, you need to be told by someone else that, yeah, you are allowed to pick it up. And if you want more speed, you're allowed more speed. Because I think there's especially, with people online that are sort of anti-speed because for whatever reason they can't do it, or they just like blues and they hate rock and they hate flash guitar playing. There are a lot of people out there that basically will try to put you off of basically playing guitar like you want to. And they'll make you feel like just because you want more speed, that makes you shallow. It's like, the way I put it, it's going out into the world and pretending that you're an eco-warrior, tree hugger, vegan, just because everybody else is, just because they'll make you feel bad if you're not. But secretly, you want a fucking Ferrari, you want to eat steak, you want to drink beer. That's who you really want to be. And to me, that's what it's like in the guitar world. It's like you got all these old bastards making you feel bad because you want to have more technique, right? But you're not doing it and you're not giving yourself permission. Well, look, you guys, I'll give you permission to do it, but you've got to give yourself permission and say, no, fuck it, I want to be able to speed pick. I want more legato. I want to be able to play better. But until you flip that switch, you won't do it because psychologically, you're always holding yourself back.
And I will add another layer to that as well. Don't be afraid to ask for help from a professional, as in, this goes back hand in hand with the psychological side of things of feeling worthy. Like, oh, am I allowed to ask for help? Yeah.
So you feel like you've got to be like, you can only approach me or someone else because you feel like you need to be at a certain level.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I can't go and ask Ben for help or anyone else for help because I'm not really that advanced. I'm not like shred level. And it's like, you don't need to be. It's like everybody uses technique. Everybody.
Yes, and your goal with every student is to get them the results that they want, not some kind of random generic.
Well, yeah, but also, it's not kidding people that you're going to turn them into, I don't know, insert guitar legend here, Yngwie Malmsteen, right? It's let's say you're 55, and you're questioning whether you can pick fast enough or that. It's like, yeah, you can improve. You can definitely get better from where you are, and no one's going to pretend that you're going to be a Ferrari Enzo at the end of it, but you're definitely going to be better from where you were. You might turn yourself from a Toyota Corolla to a BMW M5 or something,
yes.
Which is infinitely better than where you are now. So it's like everyone can get better.
Yes.
Everyone can get better. It's just, again, you get that resistance from people that have either given up or are just pissed off because they don't like that type of music. But you get resistance from like the naysayers. So that when you go out into the world, like when I go out and I tell people all this stuff and say, look, these are myths, you can do this. You will always get people saying, yeah, like I can be like Yngwie or like I can be like Eddie. And it's like, no, you're misconstruing it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're going to be Yngwie Malmsteen. I'm not saying you're going to get Rusty Cooley levels of picking.
Yes.
I'm not saying you're going to get Jason Becker levels of arpeggios, but you're going to fucking get better.
Yes,
you're going to
exactly.
get way better than you are now. And that is, in the analogy I always use as well, is like you've got Olympic level athletes. Then you've got running clubs, local running clubs, right? Now, the guys in local running clubs are really, really fucking good. Then you've got beginners. So imagine you are as good as somebody who was like really good in the local running club. Even the best people of the best running clubs aren't expecting to be Usain Bolt, all right? So forget that idea that anyone's promising you're going to be an Olympic athlete. No, but you could be fucking awesome at this level or really good at this level to a point where you're actually really happy.
Exactly, and I think
that's what it's about.
I think that's the bit as well for people that don't feel they're good enough and they beat themselves down so far that they actually put the guitar away for like 10, 15 years. And then they come back because obviously time and everything else, they've got more time to do it. But it's that psychological thing that they feel like they can't just, I can't ask Ben, to help me, or I can't ask anyone to get me to the better technique levels because I gave up on it and the shame
It's
and
like
the
the self-blame.
oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and it's just life, isn't it? It happens, you know.
yeah,
Priorities
yeah,
come into your life. You know, there's loads of you guys that I've talked to and who I know that we're getting into guitar in the glory days of the 80s. You know, I mean, I would have loved to have been around then.
yeah.
Watching it, you know,
Yeah.
going to those shows. You know, a lot of you guys have told me, you know, you went to see or saw Van Halen, or you saw Iron Maiden, or you were seeing Doc and Rat, all the hair guys, all the hard rock, all the big guys. You know, all the heroes. Some of you guys have even seen Randy Rhoads live. You know,
Yeah,
wow,
amazing.
that would have been amazing.
Yeah,
So you guys were playing back then, and then maybe you got married and had kids, and now you didn't pick up your guitar till a few years later. Now you've got some extra time, and it's like, it's life. You know, you don't need to feel bad that you put your guitar down. You know, and like I said, the instruction level back then wasn't what it is now. So the information you have access to now is infinitely more available and more knowledgeable as well.
and I think
you know.
young players as well because we have quite a few young players too.
Well, yeah, and that's
who are and they come to you and the common thread there is overwhelmed. I feel overwhelmed. What should I be doing, Ben?
That's again. I think that's the flip side of the coin is in some ways you were kind of luckier when you had less stuff to go on because it's like, well, my choices are limited, so I have to do one of these paths, right?
Yeah.
That follow the instructions in that book or that tab, or just figure it out by ear from slowing down records, right? So that's how a lot of people got really good, you know, doing that, or they got to a certain level where they're pretty good. But yeah, overwhelm now is the opposite problem.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
So much stuff.
quite a few of the young guys that come to you practice 2+ hours a day, and I mean
More than that, 4. You know, I mean, you get in.
but the average is
Look.
kind of 2+ hours, and
Yeah.
you think, I'm thinking, wow.
Yeah,
you
and
know.
the first thing I see when these guys, especially when they want to learn everything, right, is right. You are practicing way too much. You're going to hit meltdown in a month.
Yeah.
You're going to hit.
If they're
meltdown.
not already hitting it by
Yeah,
getting
you're
in
going to
touch
hit
with you,
meltdown. Absolutely are. I know they are.
Yeah.
I know they are before they know it, and they're just
Yeah.
going to. You know, it's too much. You know, you can't do everything, and this is, and especially in the internet age, everybody thinks that they can do everything and be everything, and this it might seem like I'm going against my message of believing yourself. No, it's not. It's knowing that you kind of have to make choices in life. You know, you have to commit to certain things. You can't do fucking everything. You know, you're not going to be everything. You have to choose what you love and go after it and accept that, you know, some things you're going to have to let go of. Some things you're not going to be able to do. You know, but the things you do want to do, fucking do them and get good at them. You know, it's like you don't have to be, you know, a skydiver, a scuba diver, an airline pilot, Bruce Dickinson, an author. You know, it's this whole not people pleaser. What's the word I'm looking for? Overachiever, right? You don't have to overachieve your way into everything just because because the internet's opened up the world to fucking everything, and you see everybody online, and you think, shit, they're doing that, they're doing that, they're doing that, and it can make you feel inadequate.
And especially with the content to consume.
Yeah, but what you don't realise is they're only doing that for attention. A lot of these people, and they're really fucking unhappy because they haven't really found out what they want to do. You know.
Yeah.
Or maybe they are happy doing that, but that's because it's what they're meant to be doing, you know, not what you're meant to be doing. So I think there's a lot of that overwhelm with internet.
Oh yeah, and finding your path.
Yeah, but Instagram, I mean, there's kids on Instagram who are amazing. There are amazing young guitar players on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I mean, the positive of that is it is getting more people into guitar playing,
Yes.
which is great. It's also showing some of the older guys that it is possible and you don't have to be a child genius.
No.
You know, if this guy can play this good at the age of, I don't know, 18 or 21, then all he's done is he's used information and been inspired by the stuff around him. You know, he's not Mozart incarnate, you know, or anything like that.
No.
So I think it is showing more people that it's possible.
And truthfully, you know, these young kids, they've been able to spend a lot of time doing it. You know, because they don't have
They don't have the
responsibilities and stuff to get through every day. So, you know, it's all relative.
It is all relative. Okay, guys, so the upshot of this whole video is to make you realise that if you're stuck, there's a lot more going on than just searching for new licks. You need to look at the psychological aspects because chances are the reason you're stuck is in there somewhere. So, hope you enjoyed watching. There's a lot of stuff in here which is gold if you look for it, and I'll see you next time.